I'd like to start off this video by quickly mentioning that AI Artificial Intelligence is one of the most underrated films of all time in my opinion. While it was officially directed by Steven Spielberg, in many ways it is the final vision, the lingering memory of the late and great Stanley Kubrick, and deserves much more credit. You guys should really check it out. Now that that's out of the way, I think that in order to really be able to analyze this film, we have to get into the nitty-gritty of what it's really about. Like many movies revolving around artificial intelligence, AI isn't so much a film about robots as it is an introspective look into the human condition, the struggles it causes, shot from the perspective of a non-human. Because that makes sense, right? Yes, it does, and I'm going to explain why. First, I'm going to give it a little context. In the movie, our protagonist David is a robot or mecha child designed specifically to love. He's the first of his kind. He is given two parents, Monica and Henry, who are suffering the, quote, loss of their ill comatose son Martin. After a short period in which Monica comes to have a slightly awkward but loving relationship with David, Martin is somehow cured of his disease and wakes up. And to make things short, this little bum-flangling trombongle of a child in a fit of jealousy decides to do everything in the power of his endlessly creative lad brain to make David's life a living hell, deceiving him so much that the parents begin to suspect that he is becoming violent, and Henry ultimately decides to send him back to the factory for disassembly. Monica, unable to cope with the thought of David's destruction, leaves him in the woods in the most painful scene to watch in film history. Because he is designed and programmed to love forever, David, remembering the story of Pinocchio he was read by Monica, begins a search for his blue fairy, so that he too may become a real boy one day and regain the love of his beloved mother. This is where the heart of this movie lies, and this is where David's story begins and ends. Going back to the meaning of this movie, AI is a quite simple movie about love. We as humans are on a constant, often lifelong journey in pursuit of these feelings. We desire connection, acceptance. And this movie is about David's struggle for those things. But being a mostly Kubrick film, AI also delves into the feelings of grief and the unattainability of love and happiness. The cinematography and shot composition of this film do a great job bringing these raw themes to the surface. Throughout this film, many shots are composed so that David is isolated from the rest of the scene within a circle. Circles upon even more circles. This is important for many reasons. Geometrically, the circle is representative of a human struggle to find love, as it has no end and therefore symbolizes a constant and eternal conflict that resides in all humans. This struggle in David causes him to naturally be ostracized from the rest of the world around him. So in short, he is forever alone. Here's one of the first and simplest examples of this circular theme in the movie, in which David is having dinner with Monica and Henry. In this scene, David is contained within the shape of the lamp hanging above them. This is our first subtle indication that David, by nature, is disconnected from those around him. Here is a second, and in my opinion, more impactful example of this motif. In this scene, David is lying in his bed with Monica sitting next to him. The reason I found this scene interesting is that Monica is now in the circle with David. This makes sense, as she is the sole reason for David's motivation in this movie. In essence, she is what traps David in this circle to begin with, and as such, she is one of the characters who fit in this circle with him. Going even further with this aspect of the film, I believe this next scene solidifies my theory about this theme in the movie. Here we have David's companion throughout the film, Gigolo Joe, who had run away with David after he was framed for the murder of one of his customers. In this scene, after being led by another character to what they call the end of the world, or Manhattan, Joe attempts to dissuade David from completing his journey, as it is a perilous one that may not necessarily lead to his happiness. As you can see, they are in David's circle once again. Joe is pushing David backwards along its edge, attempting to break David out of this unending cycle of pain that he has trapped himself in.
They made us too smart, too quick, and too many. We are suffering for the mistakes they made because when the end comes, all that will be left is us.
Unfortunately, just like us humans, he continues on his journey for love. This is why David is more of a human than we think he is. Despite the possibility of failure, we continue to pursue happiness and connection with other people, because without it, we have nothing to live for. For spoiler reasons, I won't tell you what the ending of this film is, because I think it would be better to experience it for yourself. But I can tell you with complete certainty that this movie has the most depressing ending you will ever see in a movie, period. No ifs, ands, or buts. That's it. But anyways, this movie is incredible. It's a beautiful homage to the work of Stanley Kubrick in all of its existential glory. This theme of circles in the movie is a perfect symbolic representation of humanity and the struggles we endure as intelligent, thinking creatures. We as humans are naturally cyclical beings. We undergo periods of war, then peace, then more war, love, then hate, then love again. You could say it is in our nature to repeat ourselves over and over again, and this aspect of the movie is what makes David so human, and what makes him so relatable. We root for David, because at the end of the day, we know that David is doing the same thing that we all do on a daily basis. We search endlessly for an ending we know may never be realized, for love that may never be returned, for the place where dreams are born.